What's going on, everybody? March Madness has finally arrived. This is the best week in sports, I think, hands down. I mean, possibly sometimes the Masters, but I think this first week of the NCAA tournament, we have games all day long, and it is spectacular. It's the best time to just find a good seat on the couch and just post up, which is what I was doing for most of the day. Few games I want to talk about today. Just wrapping up. Kind of a slow day. Wish there was a little bit of closer games. Wish there were some better upsets. But kind of delivered down the stretch here. The last couple games ended up being pretty good, including, the one that finished off the night with Texas Tech taking on UNC Wilmington. But about 5 games that I want to touch on. Starting with Kansas, Arkansas. Arkansas, the 10 seed, knocks off Kansas, the 7 seed. And it's a weird year for both of these teams right now. Starting on Kansas side, Bill Self, they were the preseason number 1 team in the entire country. And they did not win a NCAA tournament game. And not by fluke. It wasn't like just some random, 15-2 upset. It was a pretty good matchup going in. And this Kansas team just never felt like a Kansas team. If you watched them, they had so much talent on there. Hunter Dickerson, KJ Davis. I mean, they had a squad of seniors and some good pieces, and they just never played well together. They never really looked like a Kansas team, and they always made these kind of boneheaded mistakes. And the season goes on, and then there's the stuff with Bill Self reportedly almost took the Oklahoma State job, and they had questions on whether you want to be there, and they had their streak snapped of it was years where every single poll, AP poll, they were ranked. They fell out of the polls for the first time in I forgot what it was, 8 years or something like that. They had gone forever, always being ranked. And they stayed unranked for a long time. And I think they finished out the season unranked. Meanwhile, on Arkansas' side, I feel terrible. It's got to be the most frustrating thing in the world to be an Arkansas fan watching this team. And it's the same complaints that Kentucky fans said about Coach Cal here at the end. They have, not joking, probably a top 10, at least, I would think, maybe top 5 if you want to talk yourself into it, talented roster in the country. Wagner's amazing. Brazil's amazing. I mean, they have NBA, they have pro dudes up and down that lineup. They also have guys up and down that lineup that have no idea what their role is. They have no idea how to play in a system. And it is just guys doing hero ball. And it is so frustrating to watch. At one point, they got a steal. They were up 4 late in the second half. They get a steal and a kind of delayed fast break. And a guy pulls up for a 3 in it, and it's somewhat contested, and it's pretty deep. And then the announcer said that was he'd only made 3 threes the entire season. And they're like, why is that guy taking that shot? Couldn't tell you. But if I'm a Razorback fan watching that, I don't have any hair to pull out. But if I did, they have so much talent. And I don't know what to do with them. When you were building a bracket, I actually had them in the Sweet 16, mostly because I didn't believe in Kansas. Not that I believed in them, but they're talented enough on that roster that on any given night they could beat anybody. But they also could lose to UNC Greensboro, and I wouldn't be amazed or shocked by it because it's this team just does not know how to play basketball and win. So much talent on there. But that's everything that Kentucky fans were saying about Coach Cal and what he did when he was there, that he brought in top 5 ranked recruiting classes every year, and yet they never found a way to kind of live up to the expectations. Texas Tech, UNC Wilmington, the last game of the night. UNC Wilmington gives them a run for their money there, but Texas Tech holds on for the 82-72 win. They were talking about it all night long on the telecast. Texas Tech is good. Like, I think they could go on a run. They shot 46 threes tonight. That's an insane clip. That was a program record, but that is a crazy amount of threes to launch in a game. And to only hit 13 of them, that's tough. If you don't get some kind of balance, it's really hard to win consecutive tournament games if that's what you're going to be doing, shooting that many threes, because you have to get red hot. And they weren't tonight, and they get away with it, despite UNC Wilmington kind of giving them a game. I mean, it was pretty close. It was a 4-point game there with about 4 minutes to go, but the Red Raiders able to pull that out. They advance. Same thing when I was looking at the Michigan UC San Diego game. UC San Diego, first time they're eligible to play in the tournament since they moved up. And they get in, and they were giving Michigan fits. They could shoot the ball. They were handling it. Michigan seemed like they were relying a little bit too much on one-on-one play, and it showed up. The big number there was 14 turnovers for the Wolverines in this one. I had Michigan in the Final Four. I really like this team. They won the Big Ten. They won the Big Ten tournament. They look really good. May's first year coaching there has a really good squad. They scared me tonight. This was a bit of a yikes. I mean, it's a win. I mean, all you got to do is win and survive and advance. But they did not look great tonight. And there was a chance there, a shot, 3 seconds left, and a good look. I mean, they had 20 seconds to run the play. They got it off with 3 seconds left. A somewhat contested three. It was pretty open, but couldn't get it to go. But just a 3-point win over UC San Diego. And I think if you polled 95% of college basketball fans, they couldn't tell you what UC San Diego's mascot is or what conference they're probably in. Not a very encouraging start there for Michigan, but like I said, it is a win, so they do advance. McNeese in Clemson. Will Wade is a bad man. I used to cover him when he was at LSU, and he was putting together squads there. And back-to-back years now of getting McNeese into the tournament. They're unable to get a win last year. He gets them the program's first ever win this year. And they're able to tune out all the noise, all the talk about the fact that reportedly Will Wade has accepted the head coaching job at NC State. He's on his way out. You would think that would be a wild distraction and headache for the team. But in like classic Will Wade fashion, he's like, no, like we talked about it. I told them what I'm doing. Like, we're very transparent about it. I also talked to them about, their portal options and what they're going to be doing. He just treated this like a business transaction, like the players can and should. And once you do that, and once you get everything, like all the cards are on the table, it's like, it's been addressed. We're moving on. Just also a crazy game there, by the way. They were up 20. They were dominating Clemson in the first half. Clemson had 13 points in the first half. Part of just a rough start to this tournament here for the ACC. Now, to their credit, they came storming back in the second half. And if that game was 30 seconds longer, I think they probably somehow find a way to win that thing. But McNeese still gets the win, a 2-point win there. And they live in advance. And Will Wade is going to make himself a lot of money at NC State. But it's wild that it's already kind of out there and addressed, because these things are normally, they wait until 10 minutes after their season is done, and then all of a sudden the reports start coming out. They hadn't even tipped the ball yet in the tournament, and it was already, people were talking about it, and he had talked about it with his team. Like, he was very out there and open about the entire thing. So a little different approach to it, but it works. Teams responding, and they looked good. Two teams, probably the most impressive performances today. I thought Gonzaga looked awesome, dominating Georgia. I mean, they looked very, very good, and that's going to set up a very fun matchup in the next round, as they're going to potentially a lot of people think going to have a chance at pulling off a bit of an upset as they're going to be squaring off against Houston. And that's a game that, I mean, Gonzaga, by the metrics, is a top 5 team in the country, even though they didn't get ranked up there. A lot of that's because they play in the WAC, but like they can give Houston fits. I've seen Houston in person a couple times this year. Houston can really defend. Houston's got some great wings. They can get after it, but they aren't as good as Houston last year, I don't think, in my opinion. They're missing Snead, who moved on, obviously, and is in the NBA, but like missing that floor general point guard is a floor general point guard changes everything in college basketball, and they just don't have that guy right now. And Gonzaga's pretty good. I think that's a sneaky second round matchup right there, and that's going to be a tough game for Houston as far as that. You wouldn't expect your first 2 games, if you're a 1 seed, either of them to be like really, really tough. That is a tough draw for Houston right there. The other one was Creighton. That looked amazing. Creighton was shooting the hell out of the ball in the first half. They were lighting it up in their game. And it was crazy impressive. They took their foot off the gas a little bit, but they still absolutely put on a performance against Louisville. By the way, at Rupp Arena, which might as well have been a home game. I mean, it is so close to Louisville, and the fans there were probably 4-1 in favor of Louisville. I thought I picked Louisville in the matchup going in just strictly based on the fact that I was like, they're playing pretty well, and they're playing in front of what's going to be a home fan base. That game felt done 10 minutes in. Their hearts were just like ripped out with the way that Creighton was shooting the ball. They lit it up. And if they can stay hot like that, that's the recipe of how people go on runs, teams go on runs in the tournament, is if you're able to connect and shoot a lot of threes, if you're able to rebound. And they were doing it all in the first half. Louisville made some run at it in the second half. They at least made it like kind of competitive. It's really kind of started the last maybe like 4 minutes of the first half. But Creighton's another team that now is going to have a lot of people's attention. They made 11 threes in that game. As far as tomorrow's lineup, games that I think you should just keep your eye on that'll be interesting. Sneaky good game, Colorado State and Memphis, and that is that's an earlier game right there. Colorado State's pretty good. The Mountain West had a little bit of a resurgence this year, and they have been pretty solid going into this thing. They're actually favored in this game, despite being the 12 seed and Memphis being the 5 seed. Now, Penny Hardaway's got himself a squad. PJ Haggerty is a name you're going to want to watch out for. This guy's stat lines, I've covered him for a couple of years now, and this guy's stat lines are always the funniest things in the world. He'll go 4 for 15, and you're like, oh, like that was an awful game. And he'll wind up with like 20 points because you've never seen a guy get to the free throw line more often than him, it feels like. He draws so many fouls. He's not super quick. He's just very crafty, and he's a little bit bigger, and he knows when he reminds me a little bit of Luka in that way, like when he basically goes to the rack and is moving around a little bit, feels the contact, puts it up, draws fouls. But that's going to be a very, very sneaky game. And like I said, Colorado State's favored in it, but like it should be a great game to kind of kick off tomorrow's slate. Troy, Kentucky is another interesting one. If you want to dig deeper into a little potential upset, Kentucky's favored by 11.5 in that. But I've seen Kentucky play a few times this year in person. They don't do it for me. Otega Owe is awesome. He's having an incredible season. Brandon Garrison brings him some length, and he can kind of mix it up when he comes in at center. But they just don't have guard play. They have a lot of just kind of oddball pieces, and it hasn't really blended all that really well this year. And I mean, they're 22-11, but they could have easily lost both games to Oklahoma this year. There was a number of games on their slate where they gutted out some stuff, and I don't think they're nearly as good as that record indicates. If Troy can make some threes and force them to kind of play a little bit up tempo and play a little bit more to their speed, Troy can have a chance in that game. They really can. The 8-9 matchup, Oklahoma and UConn. UConn back-to-back defending champs. Oklahoma is an enigma of a team. I can't figure them out. They started the year 13-0, got all the way up to top 15 in the country. Then they fell flat on their face as soon as conference play started, and they were horrible. Fell out of the polls. They fell out of making the tournament at one point. And then in the last 2 weeks of the season, they catch fire and they end up basically playing their way into the tournament and getting a shot here. They got a point guard, Jeremiah Fears, who's supposed to be a lottery pick. He hasn't really been all that much of a wow factor for me this year, but I mean, every projection has him like in the top 10 just about. So they got some pieces. UConn's certainly not what they were the last few years. My gut tells me this is a game that UConn wins. I think they just X and O and win it. But the best prospect is going to be on the Sooner side. They got some pieces that are going to be really excited to be in the tournament. They're going to be, guys that have not played a minute before, but how do they handle it? How do they get ready for this? How do they do with the bright lights? UConn been here before. So my gut tells me UConn in that one. The Liberty-Oregon game is interesting. Liberty has been a program that has quietly had 10 years now of a very good run. I mean, they won the ASUN something like 3-4 years in a row, somewhere around there. They switched conferences. They're still having a lot of success. They can shoot the ball really well. And that's only a 6.5 point spread. I don't think they beat Oregon tomorrow, but I think they can make that a game. And if they get hot, then it's kind of anyone's guess kind of down the stretch there. Those are the ones that really stood out to me. Obviously, we're going to wait and see what happens with the Grand Canyon and Maryland. Maryland doesn't shoot threes. So if Grand Canyon can control the pace in that, if they can hit some threes and force Maryland to play their game, they're going to have a shot. Maryland also has one of the best prospects, freshman in the country, who's an insanely good post. They got what they call the Crab Five, so they're starting five. Crab is very popular over there in Maryland. But I mean, they just about had top 3 rankings in conference in every statistical category. They went over to time a couple pods ago. Their last 5 losses all came in the last 10 seconds of the game, and like 4 of them were buzzer beaters. Derek Queen's the freshman, 6'10", big kid, can do it all. He's awesome. They're just playing really well. Their one weakness is they just don't shoot the ball very well. And so that is a huge thing come postseason play. It's hard to win 6 games in a row if you can't hit the threes, the ultimate equalizer. So there's a puncher's chance there for Grand Canyon. They're going to have to get hot. They're going to have to hit some shots and try and control the tempo in that one. But they are going to have their hands full. Maryland's got 8 losses in the last 5. We're off in the last 10 seconds of a game. They're really, really good. So we'll see what they can do. Those are the ones that stood out to me. Let me know if there's any game that stood out to you or any upsets or how you did on your bracket. My first day wasn't great. I'm doing all right, but it was not great. Some of my picks pretty rough. So hopefully all of us do a little better here in day 2.